Yeah, friends. Good morning, my dear student friends. Welcome back to another session. Today I am going to start a new topic. Previously, we have gone with three chapters, that is basic introduction to steel structures and design of welded connections, fillet welded connections. Next, design of tension members. And today we'll going to start, that is design of compression members. What is this? Design of compression members. This is new topic, and previously you are supposed to expect two short answers and three long answers from this chapter. This is a very big topic which covers maximum marks earlierly as per the C14, C09 and C16 curriculums. Now C18 curriculum, it may vary. Okay. Now coming to what is a compression member. So as per our earlier discussions, we can say any member, if it is primarily subjected to compressive loads, primarily subjected to compressive loads, is nothing but called as a. So basic definition is what? Load subjected towards the member, that is push. Just basic definition we can, for our understanding purpose, we'll be doing that one. So what are the best examples we know as a compression members? Means if I take a building, okay, if I take a building, whether it is a RCC building or a steel building, whatever it may be, right? So the vertical member, what will be the vertical member in case of RCC? It is nothing but a column. Okay, in local language we call this as a pillar. Okay, but technical term is a column. Okay, the vertical compression member in case of a building is nothing but a column. This is the best example. In our day-to-day life we will be seeing this sort of examples, practical things. Next one is strut. Now where you can see this strut? You can see, I will try to show in this one, sorry. So here, what is this? This is a truss member. Okay, this is a truss member. In this, the inclined portion, what you are going to see, this one is nothing but what? Is a strut. So inclined compression member in a truss is nothing but a strut. What is this? Inclined compression member in a truss is nothing but cut. Now column is nothing but vertical compression member. And one more example we see in our construction sites is crane, right? We'll be seeing crane, right? I will show you that one also. Now this is the crane. Okay, where this portion is nothing but called as a boom, which is a compression member. Okay, so the compression member in a crane is called as what? Boom. So these are the three best practical examples I can show. Okay, coming to what are the different forms of compression members? Okay, different forms of compression members. What are the different forms of compression members? Means a solid rod can be used as a compression member, a flat can be used as a compression member. Okay, next single angle section can be used as a compression member. Next double angle section can be used as a compression member. A T section. Okay, next double channel section. Double channel section either placed, what is this? This is placed back to back, or it can be placed how? This is called as what? Toe to toe, back to back or toe to toe. Next, a tubular section can be used as a compression member. Okay, next a I section can be used as a compression member. Okay, next single angle, double angle. Next multiple angles. Multiple angles can be used as a compression member. Okay, next this same double channel sections only with some plates, flange plates, can be used as a this one, and this I section can be used with extra flange plates as a channel sections. These are the different forms. Now, why these modifications will be done? What purpose will be going for this modification? Means generally directly these are the beams which are available in the market, but as per the load requirement, if this is unable to bear the load coming from the structure, okay, if it is alone without these flanges, if it is not able to take the load, in such situation you will be doing some modifications so as to take the load. After making that modifications, we call this as a built up sections. We call this as what? Built up sections. Now when the readily available sections in the market can be modified when it is not suitable to take the load, because load is excess than its resistance. In such situations you have to make some alterations. Those are nothing but called as what? Built up sections. Okay, not only beams, in every section if a load coming from the structure is unable to take by the individual readily available in market items, then in such situations you are supposed to take the make the modifications. Okay, now here you are going to learn the new terms here. Buckling class, that is buckling class of cross section. Buckling class of cross section. Now what is this buckling class of cross section? Now buckling means what? If a column is vertically placed, okay, it may have tendency to buckle like this. Means they may buckle like this. This buckling will be varying according to the load coming onto the structure. This buckling may vary according to the load coming onto the structure. Okay, now one more condition is accidental eccentricity means generally we assume that the column is going to take what type of load? Axial load. But is it possible? It is impossible. But code provides some eccentricity, some limits to the eccentricity code will be giving. Okay, but if it is exceeding, if the eccentricity also get exceeded, then the load is not to be considered as a axial load. It has to be considered as what? Eccentricity. Now, why this eccentric loading will occur means because of the imperfections in the fabrications. Imperfection of the fabrication means because we are dealing with the steel structures, we will be fabricating it, means either we will going for welding or riveting or bolting. So there may be some chances of imperfectionness in the so for that situation, because of that one, even though we are assuming it is axial load, it may get eccentric load. So for that, what happens is code has been divided. What is this code? IS 800 2007. Okay, divides into various cross sections, that is into 4 buckling classes, that is class A, class B, class C, class D. Okay, so one second. Now yeah, so see here, actually I missed my code book, that is the reason I am doing in this one. So here if you can see IS 800 2007, in that table number 10, that is, I hope you can see this one, right? Buckling class of cross section. Okay, in that you have cross sections. Okay, A, B, C, D, buckling classes. Now this is as per page number 44 of IS. Remember these page numbers which are very important. Okay, now while doing the procedure for determining the compressive strength or designing the compressive strength, we will be trying to do what is this A and what is B, what is C. Just to remember from where these you are going to get, I am explaining you, right? Table number 10. So this is the tabular column. If you can see, you will be having roll dissections. Okay, for that you will be having Z axis and Y axis. For that you will be having buckling classes. So based upon H by BF ratio and TF values, you are going to give what type of classification. Now after deciding the buckling class here from table 10, then you have to move to table number 9. What are these? We'll see in the coming sessions. Okay, next, what is the slenderness ratio? What do you mean by slenderness ratio? We already discussed in the earlier classes. Okay, slenderness ratio, it is defined as the effective length to least radius of gyration. Okay, effective length to least radius of gyration or corresponding radius of gyration, least radius of gyration, corresponding radius of gyration, I can say, that is slenderness ratio, it is KL by R. Now when we take corresponding and when we take least, we'll see in the further design problems. What is this least radius of gyration or corresponding radius of gyration? Okay, and you all know this has no units, mm by mm. So next, what is this one? Radius of gyration or gyration. Some will call gyration and someone will call gyration, right? Next one is what? Radius of gyration. It is either r or k, small k, generally it is denoted by. Okay, it is defined as the ratio of, it is defined as the ratio of moment of square root of moment of inertia to cross sectional area. Moment of inertia to cross sectional area r equals to under root of I by a. Okay, that is the radius of gyration. Next, actual length and effective length. What are these? Actual length and next what is effective length. What is this actual length? It is the center to center distance of compression membrane between the restrained ends. You will be restraining the ends. Okay, different types of restraint conditions are there based upon the length. Okay, center to center distance between restrained ends is nothing what called as actual length. But while designing or while doing, we'll be considering the effective length only. This one, effective length only considered. Okay, now what is this effective length means? Effective length depends upon both conditions. One is actual length given and end conditions, end boundary conditions. Okay, now what are these end boundary conditions? Okay, we'll see now. That is effective length. This is again, if you go for your code book, page number 45, yes, page number 45, table 11, table is 11. If you can see here, this is IS 800 2007 again, table number 45, and effective length of prismatic compression member. Now what are these boundary conditions and what is effective length? It is going to happen. See, so suppose if I take a column at one end, at other end, one end and other end. Okay, one end of the column is restrained against translation and rotation, and at the other end it is free to translate nor rotate. Okay, it is free. This will be the condition. For that, what will be the effective length? Effective length equals to 2 times of actual length, where L is actual length. Similarly, one end of the column is free to translate but restrained against rotation, and this condition also same. For that, it is also 2L. Next, one end of the column is restrained against translation but free to rotate, and this one means both ends hinged condition. This will be what? Hinged condition. So it is 1L. Next, both ends, one end of the column is restrained against translation and rotation, Other end it is what? Restraints against rotation and free to translate. It is 1.2. Like that, in the problems, to calculate an effective length, the boundary conditions will be given. The boundary conditions will be given. So earlier, if you go for a columns and struts in your strength of materials and theory of structures, theory of structures, there you have directly both ends of the columns are fixed, one end fixed, one end hinge, both ends of the columns are hinged, one end fixed, other end free, like that. You have the conditions directly, okay, where you got L by 2, L by root 2, root 3 by, like this you got some values, right? So here the boundary conditions will be in terms of translations and rotations, okay. Now if you see last one, both ends of the columns are restrained against translation and rotation, means both ends fixed. So in such situations 0.65 L is like that. Based upon the conditions you are supposed to take, okay. This is very important tabular column while solving the problems from this compression values, okay. Next one is what? Maximum slenderness values, slenderness ratio values, maximum slenderness ratio values. So this is also there in as per table number 3 of page 20, page number 20, okay. If you see this one, maximum values of effective slenderness ratio, okay, in that both you will be having for tension and compression. As we are dealing at present with the compression, you are supposed to take these values only, okay. So the very first, maximum effective slenderness ratio okay, which is carrying what? Carrying compressive loads, carrying what? Compressive loads, and which are due to dead load and live load. That is, from dead load and imposed load will have a maximum slenderness ratio value of how much? 180, okay. Next one, it is second is one regarding tension member. No need to see now because already we have discussed this value in case of that one. Next, a member subjected to compression force, a member subjected to compression force resulting only from combination, means compressive force resulting from what? Wind or earthquake actions, means because of what? Wind load oblique earthquake loads, then it should not exceed 250. So these are the two values. One more is there, see, compression flange of a beam, it is, okay. It is not a member, not a compression member, but compression flange means, suppose if I take a simply supported beam above the neutral axis, it is what zone? We call it as what? Compression zone. So the flange in a compression zone is nothing but a compression flange. Further they are given. So these two are very important. This first one, okay, and a third one, okay. Next, while discussing regarding the buckling classes, I have used one word, imperfection, right? Imperfection factor. Imperfection factor. It is denoted by alpha. This is also available in your code of page number, one second, I think around table number 7, Okay, table number 7 and the page number is 35. Page number 35. So if you see here, imperfection factor alpha, buckling class. How many buckling classes are there? 4. A, B, C and D, right? So what is this one? So for buckling class A, B, C, D, what are these values? 0.21 factor, it is no units, right? 0.34, 0.49 and it is 0.76. So these are the imperfection values. Okay, now what for these imperfection factors are used? This, while calculating the buckling strength, you are supposed to use this factor to take it into account of the residual stresses or accidental eccentricities. That is nothing but a imperfection factor. Means accidentally while fabrication something may wrong may go on, which we can't notice at that time. In those situations, instead of getting axial load, you may getting eccentric loading. For such reasons, you have to take into consideration all these factors are nothing but called as an imperfection factor. So it depends upon the type of buckling class. Based upon those you have the values. Now next one is design compressive stress. There design permissible design tension stress, in that one is FTD. Here it is FCD. Stress we are talking, right? FCD in Newton per mm square. Now for that, okay, from clause number, I think we have formula for that one. This is as per clause 7.1.2.1, page 34. Page is how much? 34. For that, here FCD, the design compressive strength FCD of axially loaded compression member shall be taken as using the following equation. If you see this equation, that is very big equation it will be. Okay, FCD equals to F5 by gamma m naught by 5 plus 5 square minus lambda square to the power of 0.5. Like that, you have this much of big formula, right? Don't get panic by seeing this formula, even though it is in code book. So earlier we used to use this formula for calculating the FCD value to calculate the strength of a compression member. What is this? PD equals to AE into FCD. Okay, area of a section, it is easy, you can get from steel table, or you can calculate based upon the shape of the section. And FCD, this is the formula to calculate. So these terminologies are, see, if you want to calculate phi, again one formula is there, and your lambda here is a non-dimensional slenderness ratio value. Okay, next FCC, Euler's buckling stress, again this is one formula. So based upon that, this is very big, right? So what this IS 800 2007 has suggested, some tabular columns. Okay, what are those tabular columns? Means to calculate FCD value from tabular columns by interpolation, that is table number 9. In that you have A, B, C, D. Means for each buckling class you have FCD value separate. For each buckling class you have FCD value separate. Now how these tabular columns have been developed? These are developed based upon table number 8. Now we'll see what are this table number 8 and what are this table number 9 now. Okay. Now coming to in this, what are these factors? Just to remember, one is effective length is there, imperfection factor is there, and stress reduction factor. What is this? Stress reduction factor. This stress reduction factor is there. Now what are these stress reduction factor? We'll see now. See, this is imperfection factor. Now this is table number 8. Means table number 9 is a combination of table number 7 and table number 8. Okay, what you can arrive from table number 7 means imperfection factor alpha. What you can arrive from table number 8 is stress reduction factor. Stress reduction factor. Now by using these two tabular columns with the formula what I have shown here, you can calculate table number 9. Okay, now here table number 8, stress reduction factor for what? If you go back to this formula once again, in that yield stress is there, gamma m naught, partial safety factor is there, next non-dimensional slenderness ratio value is there, next stress reduction factor is also there. Okay, so in this formula they have considered all these values. So for that what they have gone, they have used table number 7 for imperfection factor and table number 8. In that if you want to develop a table number 9a, they are using table 8a. Now what will be there in table 8 means stress reduction factors. What are those? Stress reduction factors for buckling class A, like that. These are the values. What? Based upon what? Effective length to yield stress Fy ratio. Okay, based upon this one, class B, stress reduction factor values for class B, buckling class B. Next stress reduction factor for buckling class C. Next stress reduction factor for buckling class D. Like that, these are the 4 tabular columns. Now from this, now coming to here, what is this? Design compressive stress FCD for column buckling class A. What is this? Buckling class A. Now this also yield stress Fy versus KL by R. So based upon that KL by R value what we obtain for the given yield stress value, we can interpolate and get. Suppose if the value is between say 60 to 70, in between 65 we got the ratio of slenderness ratio we got as 65 for example. So 60 to 70 in between these two, and our yield stress value is say 250. For 250, for 60 it is 195 and 182. So in between whatever the value got, that is the FCD value. That value multiplied with the area, you will be getting what? Strength. Okay. So code has been given very easy method to calculate FCD value, because even though by using that formula also you can calculate, but it's a time taking process. It's a time taking process. For that reason they have made some ready-made tabular column, that is table number 9A, 9B, 9C, 9D. So this is the thing. What is this design strength? I said you, this is what? Design compressive strength. Design compressive strength. Okay. Now what is this AE? Effective sectional area. Where you can obtain this one? You can obtain this value from steel tables. From steel table are we discussed, right? SP6 charts, right? Next FCD value, as I said you, based upon the conditions you can obtain from table number 9. Okay, no need to worry. While solving the problems, it is very easy to understand, right? Next, we'll see some of the factors affecting the strength of a compression member. That is, factors affecting strength of a, so the factors affecting the strength of a compression member is, first one, its length of a column. Next one is shape, how the cross section of shape is, whether it is a rectangular or square or like that. Next, what is the grade of steel, this also matters. Okay, you will be getting yield stress. Next, cross sectional area of cross section. Next, this is very important, type of loading, whether it is an axial load or eccentric load, eccentrically loading. Next, based upon this length, what is that end conditions, why these end conditions are very important? Based upon those conditions only you are going to get what? Effective length of the column. Next, last one is what? Imperfections. What is imperfections? Residual stresses that may develop. Residual means what? Inside this member, some stresses are developed inside the member. They are permanent stresses, and before loading only some stresses will be developed, that is initial bow we say, and loading may be eccentric loading, and non-uniformity of the cross section means the member may not be uniform throughout its length. It may somewhat inclined, or some cross section may not be means non-prismatic. Prismatic means what? Throughout the length the section will be same, that is called as a prismatic member. So the column may be imperfection because of non-prismatic, being a non-prismatic member. These are the some of the factors which are affecting the strength of a compression member. Next, we'll see the last topic for today's class is procedure for determining the design, determining the design compressive strength of given column section. What is this problem? First of all, this is a determine the design means it's an, first of all you have to clearly know that it's an analysis problem. How I could say this is analysis problem? Because given column section they are mentioning clearly. For that reason I am saying given cross section. Now first what you have to do, but the very first step is, for the given column section you write the properties, from where? From either steel table, which is also called as what? SP6 charts. Next, after writing this one, in a question they will be giving end conditions. Okay, based on given end conditions, based upon given end conditions, okay, what you have to do? Determine the effective length Now for that, what you have to go? You have to do from table number 11, page number 45 of IS 800 2007. Okay, next, what is the next step after calculating? Now from table number 10, which is in page number 44, you have to what? Decide the buckling class. Decide the buckling class for both ZZ and YY axis. ZZ and YY axis. Now on what basis you will be dividing means, that is H by BF ratio and TF value. Based upon these values you are going to decide. Okay, next, fourth one. After that one, you have to calculate effective slenderness ratio, that is KL by R, about both axes, ZZ and YY axis. Means that is KL by RZZ and KL by RYY. You have to calculate. These values you will be obtaining from what? Everyone. These values can be obtained from steel table, and this is based upon second number, step 2, right? Next, after obtaining KL, fourth step, that is KL by RZ and KL by RY, now you visit table number 9, either A or B or C or D, based upon your class decision. Means in table 3, from step 3 you have decided one class about ZZ axis and YY axis. Based upon that one, you visit any of the table 9A or B or C, D for calculating what? For calculating what? Design compressive stress, that is FCD, design compressive stress, FCD. Okay, after calculating, so as we are going for analysis problem, you will be having ZZ and YY. So ZZ axis you will be having one FCD and YY only you will be having FCD. So the final FCD is lesser of both axes. Okay, next, after getting FCD, design compressive strength, that is PD equals to AE into FCD. AE into FCD. What is AE? Effective area, which can be obtained from steel table for the given section, and FCD, the value you obtained here in the first step 5, that you will be getting PD. Next, so here, if this is a normal rolled steel sections, our thing will be good. Suppose for built up sections, I explained you in this video in the starting that what is a built up section. If the rolled steel section directly, if you are not able to take the load, then you are going to do some alterations or modifications. Okay, is nothing but a built up section. Okay, so any built up section that will be having only one buckling class, that is buckling class C always. Okay, now for that you have to calculate, as I said you, while calculating the what slenderness ratio, effective length by least radius of gyration, I said, right? Since we are getting only one buckling class, you have to take here least radius of gyration, least radius of gyration. Okay, now while doing the problem I will explain you what is this actually. Okay, for built up sections, since buckling class is only one, here every time you z axis y axis means both buckling classes will be there. For any built up sections you will be having buckling class only one, that is C, and you have to take not RZZ or RYY, least of the two values RZZ and RYY. Okay, and even what radius of gyration also sometimes for built up section I minimum by A. Okay, that is a thing. Thank you for watching my video. In the further classes we'll try to start problems from this design of compressive strength chapter.